There's a pretty good chance you've never seen this Popeye short. Don't forget it, we'll be coming back to it. But do you remember Scrat? The squirrel that used to show up before every Ice Age movie, and at the very end, you get a couple minutes of screen time, it would be funny, serve a very, very small narrative purpose, and he'd be gone. Don't forget him either. Monsters Inc., Toy Story 3, Finding Nemo, Lion King, Shrek, all these movies have one thing in common. These guys, these things, beat each and every one of them out in one all-important way: the box office. Minions released in 2015 and sits at number 3 on the top grossing animated films of all time list, breaking the 1 billion gross mark as though the feat was nothing at all. But this, just like Scrat, is probably where their movie should have ended. This is mediocre animation. Okay, maybe here. This is instead 5 minutes and 40 seconds into the movie. So far, it's acted like a great short film of the minions bouncing from master to master, and this is the most creative and interesting bit of the entire film. It's also all it needed to be. Instead, it's a short film idea dragged out across an hour and a half. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it is bad for the animation industry. Illumination, the studio behind Minions, isn't the only offender, but they will be used as a stepping stone for this conversation. We've got 4 problems here. The first is the simplest. Illumination represents a lot what came before it, but what Illumination has done with Despicable Me is prioritize the dollar in a dangerous way. In almost all film, money doesn't equate to quality, but it's also no coincidence that the top 10 best reviewed animated films of the 2000s average a budget of $141 million. Great animated films require time, and often money. Walt Disney once said he didn't make movies to make money, he made money to make movies. Too much of modern animation disregards this approach. In Illumination, well, their goal, in the words of Minions director Pierre Coffin, is to shorten the time it takes to make a movie as much as possible while also spending as little as possible. To do this, they let studios like Pixar do the investing in new animated tech, while they push to get as much out for as little as they can, moving the medium, well, nowhere. The Despicable Me franchise averages a budget of $74 million per movie, which would be fine if the approach didn't have a direct effect on quality. It creates a pursuit for marketability as opposed to storytelling. When the focus becomes money, the product changes. The film's release date was actually pushed back just to take advantage of added merchandising opportunities. For animation houses like Sony and Blue Sky, chasing the easy dollar has become the goal. Create something marketable for as little as possible and worry about the rest later. This leads to problems like the meandering chaos of the cobbled together Minion script, the unoriginality of things like Secret Life of Pets, and things like 5 Ice Age films. Minion shows that you don't need quality to sell, you just need something recognizable you can get out quickly. When the goal is the dollar, ideas suffer. Which is the second problem of modern animation that Minions represents. Part of what has made Pixar so successful is their creation by committee approach, but that is expensive and time-consuming, so instead, places like Illumination and Sony Animation take an isolated creative approach. They have a select couple of higher-ups that do everything, even if they fail. Minions is not a good movie. It's heartless, random, and narratively disjointed. Its screenwriter also got the job after writing Illumination's other random and narratively disjointed movie, Hop, and writing the script for the Universal Studios' Minions Mayhem Ride. Yes, that is genuinely a reason he got the job. According to Coffin, their approach with Despicable Me, unlike most movie studios, is to create a series of vignettes and ideas and go from there. They don't start with a script, they start with set pieces and mash them together. Essentially, animated films like Minions are nothing more than a series of uncorrelated ideas played one after the other, and this is again to cut down time. And the stories suffer as a result. The Minions were a billion-dollar light bulb moment, literally. Created based on Star Wars Ewoks and Oompa Loompas, they sell, but they also don't speak. They've never really been characterized, and yet somehow these side characters got their own movie. A movie that is a series of ideas, a collection of gags with no purpose, no soul, no direction, as if the script was freestyled over the course of a day. By the end of that film, not only do you still not care enough to tell the characters apart, but you also couldn't care less about them. This emphasis on commercial-worthy moments over storytelling hurts the film. We saw this with the Penguins of Madagascar, and to a much lesser extent Puss in Boots, characters that also share something else in common, that they could be almost anything else. Cars is fine. Its sequels, not so much, but ask yourself, why exactly do the cars need to be, well, cars? Why not people in cars? Why do the characters of Sing need to be animals? In something like Toy Story, the toys go through uniquely toy issues, as does Remy in Ratatouille, the Dead in Coco. Those stories don't work if those characters are portrayed any differently. But Cars would. Sing certainly would. Even Secret Life of Pets, another Illumination film, is a reskinned version of Stuart Little, who also doesn't need to be a mouse. Hell, he could have even been a kid. And this certainly goes for the minions, their language, their existence. These ideas function solely because of how easy it is to manipulate their younger audience through, again, marketing, using these surface level ideas. The minions lead the pack in this way, their designs serving no purpose other than merchandising sales and cover art images, acting almost functionless within the film. There has been a wave of poor animated films that do nothing but present a funny idea, like The Minions, A Boss Baby, Talking Turkeys, and do so simply for the purpose of audience manipulation. They don't make anything out of these ideas. The hook becomes far more interesting in that case than the actual film. And that is what is selling and allowing franchises to swim into existence. And this is problem 4, and one you've probably heard before, but I think is actually worse than I once believed. Of Pixar's last 10 films, the once wholly original studio, 6 have been sequels. 5 of Illumination's next 6 announced films are sequels, a 5th Shrek film is on the way, franchises are everywhere. Why? The Despicable Me franchise has over 850 different toy licenses around the world. The Minion Rush app has an expected download total of 25 million, and while the Minions movie only cost about 80 million to make, $600 million was spent marketing it. Because franchising is good money for an animation studio and for merchandising. Illumination can get movies out quickly, they can spend next to nothing making them because they don't have to have an original idea, they don't have to have a great script, they don't have to push the medium forward, they just have to slap a name and a number on a poster. Franchising in animation is so much more degrading than live action in my opinion because the soul of animation should be creativity. Animation allows for unbridled originality, allows for any idea at all to be brought to life, and yet what Minions has shown is that repeating ideas can land you at the very top of financial charts, and that's stifling the medium. Carsten Rundquist once pointed out that animation is part of what molds the minds of kids, where some of their values become just that, and yet it's an industry that is rewarding movies that lack any real value at all, that rewards shortcuts and unoriginality over creativity and heart, and in turn leaves kids and adults alike with emoji movies and Cars sequels. But this pattern doesn't have to continue, even if studios seem to want it to. Remember that Popeye short at the beginning of the video? It looked awesome, right? It was a test for a feature film directed by the man behind Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and the Powerpuff Girls. It was also canceled by Sony, and in its place, we got the Emoji Movie, a casualty of everything discussed here up to now. There's nothing wrong with a movie that doesn't have anything to say, or something that appeals to people with cash to burn, and studios are going to continue to want to make their money, but I think there is something inherently wrong with a movie that exists not as art, but as product. A movie that exists not for qualitative value, but for monetary value. I think it's high time I put my dollar where my mouth is, and start backing the animation that does something worth my dollar, to speak out for movies like Popeye. I just hope what's left isn't piled under a pack of minions by the time I get there.